Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Public Policy Podcast, where we dissect public policies to uncover what works, what doesn't, and why. I'm your host, Adnan, and today we will go to Jakarta, Indonesia, and see how local leadership can drive a significant change in the face of corruption. So let's rewind to Indonesia after Suharto in the late 90s, the Reformasi era. There's a big reform spree happening throughout the country. So the country was basically boiling over with anger about the KKN, that's basically the corruption, collusion, and nepotism. People were out in the streets, the economy was a mess, and honestly, trust in government was at rock bottom. Imagine this, it is the year 2000. You are a young person in Jakarta, and all you see and hear about is how rich people are getting richer, corrupt politicians are even more powerful, and it feels like no matter how you organize protests and do some watchdog type of work with civil society, nothing is moving forward. Such a feeling of powerlessness. In this situation, it wasn't only Indonesians who were fed up, it was also the IMF, international donors. And they were all saying, if you want our help, clean up your act. Corruption is not good for business, is not good for development. So that's how the KPK, or the Komisi Pemberantasan Korupsi, was established in 2003, which is the Corruption Eradication Commission. But here's the thing, Parliament and a lot of civil society folks were super skeptical about it. They'd seen anti-corruption agencies come and go, usually with no teeth and without any efficiency. The KPK was modeled after Hong Kong's ICAC, which, if you're up to date with your anti-corruption history, it's like the gold standard. But in Indonesia, people were like, yeah, sure, another agency, what's gonna be different this time? It will never work. But, as long as those politicians and greedy, corrupt businessmen, they will always stay there, and the situation will never change. So politicians thought they were just ticking a box for the IMF to get some loans and also work more with the World Bank for the development of the country, for a couple of development projects on the line. And they didn't realize they were, as one activist put it, inviting a tiger into their home. So will that tiger help you? Will that tiger bite you? Will that tiger protect you? Also, as a politician, your home can have all sorts of animals, tigers, snakes, everything. So that's a pattern you see in a lot of countries. New agencies get set up, but nobody really believes in it. They'll do anything. Public distrust is huge roadblock. I've seen it in my own studies, and while it's not just an Indonesian thing, it's a global thing, especially a global south thing. But as we'll see, the tiger had claws and sharp teeth. So how did the KPK go from just another agency to the most feared institution in the country? The KPK was independent from legislative, judiciary, and executive branches, and it is responsible only for corruption-related crimes. So in terms of scope, it was very narrow, very targeted, and very focused. It started with a capacity-first strategy. The commissioners, they didn't rush into flashy arrests or anything mediatized. Instead, they spent over a year building up the basics, setting up a good HR system, merit-based hiring, tech, and a code of ethics that was honestly stricter than anything else in the Indonesian public sector at the time. In the first year, they got 12,000 applications for just 100 jobs. And by 2010, there were even more applying for the same kind of number of jobs. So 45,000 people applying. So that shows how successful and how exciting was the KPK just existing there. Hiring was very strict, so you had to have perfect integrity scores, be ready to work nights and weekends, and if you were just in it for the money, just forget about it and just find another job at another government agency. So they paid well, that is true, but it was about the mission and not about the money. And they also brought in digital monitoring. Everyone tracked their work online. And if you didn't fill in your timesheet, your pay got held back. So that's next level accountability and government efficiency, or like government worker efficiency. And that was also new and innovative at the time. Now let me tell you about this 2005 sting operation. This is the stuff for movies and potentially a Netflix series. So Mulyana Kusuma, an election commissioner, tried to bribe a state auditor in a hotel room downtown Jakarta. What he didn't know was that the auditor was wired, and there were hidden cameras, and the KPK agents were waiting right outside. They caught him red-handed, and then over the weekend raided the election commission's office and found a pile of cash and a note literally spelling how the bribe money should be split. That case broke decades of impunity. Suddenly, the KPK wasn't just talk, they were real, and the code of ethics, it was strict. No gifts, no fancy dinners, no golfing with people who might have a conflict of interest. You even had to tell your colleagues about any meetings, even with family members or friends, if it could look bad. They even had a whistleblower system for their own staff. That's how you build a culture that's participatory and performance-driven, not just top-down. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Once the KPK started making high-profile arrests, governments, parliament members, even ministers or former ministers, the public's attitude totally flipped. By 2008, surveys showed that the KPK was the most trusted public institution in Indonesia, even more than the parliament and presidency. But with that trust came also sky-high expectations. Every time they caught someone big, people wanted more. So today you got a governor, next time we need a minister, next time we need some high-profile people. And of course the politicians started to fight back because, it's their house. There were legal challenges, especially after the KPK's special court, the TP was ruled unconstitutional and had to be re-established. Parliament tried to slow them down, sometimes by delaying funding or rejecting commissioners' nominations. But the KPK kept going. They had strong systems in place and business continuity plans, of course, in case similar things happened. They had security protocols, they trained staff to handle threats, even though most of these threats were just angry texts or emails. There's no big physical danger. What's the lesson here for reformers is that you need public support, real autonomy, and sometimes outside help, like the technical aid the KPK got from the Australian government and others. But most of all, you need the courage to act when the moment is right. So the lessons learned here, we can have them into 6 main points. Point number 1 is to study best practices internationally and learn from your country's past mistakes. Then get the boring stuff done early on and get it right. HR processes, IT, because that's the backbone of big operations. And then number 3 is enforcement and prevention have to go together. You can't just arrest people, you have to actually change the system. Stick to the mission despite the political heat, that's number 4. And then the last 2 was basically to get be open for international help, especially to get funding that is flexible to keep your independence, and identify when the momentum is there and surf the wave to seize the moment. The KPK story actually inspired reformers in the wider Indonesian bureaucracy, like new HR systems and digital monitoring. It's proof that if you build something with integrity and real teeth, it can change the whole system. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can also join our newsletter for additional resources, updates, and exclusive content. Until next time, stay informed, stay inspired, and keep exploring. This episode was produced at L Station with help from Nicholas Stuva. L Station is a partnership between L Space Social Innovation Hub and XI Talents.